Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
Indeed, it's a beautiful Friday morning. I hope it's not raining at your end. Well, the clouds look like they're gathering right here in the Federal Capital Territory, but who knows? Anything is possible. I'm Malkwe Yusuf. Welcome.
Well, Malkwe, we're grateful in Lagos for clement weather and grateful also that it's Friday. Good morning and welcome. I am Bukola Koka.
You know, I just had to check the weather forecasts just for a moment, and I realized that it might just rain in Lagos again today. So yes, we're grateful whether it rains, whether it shines.
Absolutely.
Welcome to Lagos. I'm Kayode Okikili.
Well, I don't mind Clement, even Innocent too. They're all doing well, so it's, we welcome all of them. They should just come on, wherever they are, just come by. We will open our doors for all of you. But you know, just looking through the news yesterday, even today, and sometimes you just shudder. And I don't know, sometimes words to describe some of the things that go on could be lacking, and understandably so. For instance, if many may have seen this piece from the EFCC and this probe, yeah, I know, it happens time and again, but maybe we should even let our viewers listen to this narrative from the EFCC on Zamfara governor. Well, okay, we'll bring that to you much later, but 70 billion naira, that's what the commission says they are probing the governor for, who I think they say the governor may not be in the country at the moment, so I'm not exactly sure about that. But 70 billion naira? And the thing about this is we time and again keep asking about if, by the way, we don't mind you giving us your impression and suggestions as to what you make of our fight against corruption. Yeah, that's the word we usually use generally. Because, look, several governors are undergoing
induction
at the moment.
Yeah.
And the
even their spouses too. Their spouses were inducted yesterday. You know,
there's some things, you know, you just can't understand and make sense of why some things happen. And when you seek clarification and some sort of explanation, what you get is what you get, whether you make sense of it or not. It's just what it is. This is a country that we keep talking about paucity of funds, how we are really striving. Can you remember how many times we've been told to tighten our belts? And when that is said about the economy, you expect, or for instance, subsidy, how they say the country will hit a brick wall with subsidy payments. If we continue, we don't have funds whatsoever. So you expect some action on the part of government commensurate with their narrative such that they drastically reduce cost. Look inwards. All of those products, luxury items, vehicles that we import, look inwards and see how we could cut costs and ensure that those funds circulate here such that even local industries here could also benefit a lot from some of this. But I'm not sure we see as much as we're supposed to. But 70 billion naira from a particular governor, which the commission says this is not exactly right. So in terms of a fight and approach against corruption, have we really done well? How would you classify what we've done over the years? Not just that now, because all of these things have a way of affecting the economy. And states, you know, states always tell us that they don't have funds to run things. States will tell you they're broke. States have gone cap in hand to the federal government talking about how they want to bailouts, whatever they call it. And then 70 billion? I guess we should listen to this piece from the commission, and then we'll just shed a little more, or talk a little more about it. Have a listen.
The Commission would like to put the nation on notice to expect more of the kind of wide allegations made by Mr. Matawale, as those at the receiving end of EFCC's investigation are fighting back viciously. But the real issue with Matawale is that he is being investigated by the EFCC over allegations of monumental corruption, award of phantom contracts, and diversion of over 70 billion naira. That is the issue. 70 billion naira investigation. That is the issue. Now I'll give you a little insight into what we have found so far. The money which was sourced as loan from an old generation bank, purportedly for the execution of projects across the local governments of the state, was allegedly diverted by the governor through proxies and contractors who received payments for contracts that were never executed. Here's a loan. The Commission's investigation so far revealed that more than 100 companies have received payments from the fund with no evidence of service rendered to the state.
Well, what's left to add? You heard it yourself, an old generation bank. I mean, Chamberlain was making reference to the fact that a lot of state governments say they don't have money. They wait oftentimes for what comes from the Federation account. I think we also saw a publication whereby the debt profile of states was also published. I mean, alongside that of the federal government, states too also go borrowing. It's usually subject to the approval of the Ministry of Finance, because they have to also be able to certify that especially if it's an external borrowing, it has to be, there needs to be a stamp of approval. You can't just, go borrowing widely. But the debt profile of a number of states was, put in perspective, what they met when they got there and also what they borrowed. A number of states are indebted. So, I mean, a state governor, it's okay for you to go and borrow, but the question is, what did you do with the monies that you borrowed? Did you just fritter it away? There is no infrastructure on ground. There is no project on the ground to show that anything happened. And then the state still has to pay back that particular loan. All of this, you heard the EFCC spokesperson, the Director of Public Affairs, it remains in the realm of allegation. It is now the work of the EFCC, not just to, they've had to respond because the governor has also been, making his own allegations as well. But it's not just for them to tell us what it is that they are investigating. It's for them to conclude these investigations rapidly and for us to see a swift prosecution if they find something concrete, because so far so good. These allegations are weighty. Even the spokesperson said it's monumental corruption. So it's like there are different cadres of corruption. You can be corrupt, but then when you are monumentally corrupt, these are, allegations. After all, he remains innocent until proven guilty, and that's what we need the EFCC to do.
There are more allegations too. The governor himself, remember his outburst on Wednesday in that letter, where he says that they have evidence of corrupt practices against the chairman of the EFCC, Abdulrashid Bawa. And then he also said there are so many things that he can publish.
The EFCC has its own kettle of, trust me. I mean, a lot of things have been happening in recent times that makes a lot of people raise their eyebrows as to what is happening within the EFCC. They really need to, up their game. A lot of people have been talking about how 419, what we regard as 419 fraud, it's been spreading, is like it's come to make its home. Usually these raids are conducted because they know where the people are, where the young people who are, usually they're young people carrying out this act, they raid them, they get them, but oftentimes after a day or two, they're let off the hook because these people are able to settle. These are things that are a known fact. So how do I put it now? There is a lot going on, and of course, the EFCC will have to clean out its own urgent stables. However, does it stop them from looking into other places where malfeasance has been reported?
No.
Certainly not. So while the EFCC might be trying to remove its own speck or log, however it is you see it, Governor Matawale, if you have your own, they will certainly come after you. Unless, of course, your hands are clean.
We've got tails in this station as well. Our colleagues who have been cloned, they clone identities, they use them for fraud. Because how do you explain how, they've done it to yours truly as well. They used my name, set up a certain account number. I've written to the banks to say, look, this is not me. What are you guys doing about it? Nothing. They only say, okay, we've seen it. It's been months. Nothing whatsoever. They are trying to scam people. They write them asking that, hey, I have an accident. They need money. These things happen. How did they set up this account in the first place? The banks claiming that they don't know what's going on. And then the rules of it's so slow. Investigating some of these cases is really slow. And at the end of the day, it's a slap on the wrist. So they end up spending so much money prosecuting some cases. So they pick and choose the kind of cases they can investigate.
No consequence.
So it's a lot that we're facing in this country, really, about the fight against corruption. And I can't even tell you about the SFU, some of these cases where you report cases to. Is it the police? How they tell you, or bring money so that we can go and do this. You that have been defrauded, they tell you, please bring... Guys,
you just lick your wounds because there's no point. I don't know. Maybe Bukola and Kayode will have a different perspective. But I mean, it's very rare when you hear the EFCC emphasizing loans or loans. Oh dear.
Well, Malkwe, I was going to also take off from that important point that, you know, an individual is innocent until they're proven guilty, but also to talk about that point about the appetite for loans, either it's at the federal or at the state government levels, and, you know, how much of rigor or scrutiny are this request for loans subjected to. And we have this sad case, you know, of state assemblies beholding to the executive under the chokehold of, you know, the governors. And more often than not, you know, these requests for loans just scale through. And, you know, the EFCC also talked about these loans, you know, how the contractors who have, you know, gotten these contracts from the state government didn't deliver. It also, you know, raises questions about the procurement process. I wonder if the procurement process, you know, also works at the federal level the same way it works at the state level. So who subjected these contractors to you know, a process of scrutiny whereby they are authenticated and they are independent of any political affiliations whatsoever to the executive or to the state assembly members, whereby it will be ensured that they do the job that they've been, you know, contracted to do. So what happened at that level? And justice must be seen to be done. The EFCC, as a matter of fact, you know, gone a bit far in its investigation process. And there are quite a number of things that we didn't hear in that track. But let me just read it to you. During that press briefing, Mr. Anwaje referenced a popular Abuja property developer whom he said collected 6 billion naira Kayode on a 10 billion naira contract without rendering any service to Zamfara State. He said another contractor received over 3 billion naira for a contract for the supply of medical equipment, but the commission traced a payment of 400 million naira from his account to a bureau de change operator. The contractor confessed the payment was to procure the dollar equivalent, allegedly for the state governor. Mr. Anwaje said, without disclosing the name of the contractor. So who are these contractors? Who scrutinizes them?
Big question.
Yes, who ensures that they do the job? And when justice has been done and must be seen to be done, we hope that somewhere down the line, you know, whoever is declared guilty, you know, it doesn't get a questionable pardon along the line as well, some would say we have seen
in recent times.
In recent times.
You know, at the state we're at in this country, and I think it's important for us to be very honest with ourselves as a nation, Nigeria. I mean, things are not what they used to be like. Yes, we have the oil and gas deposits. We used to smile to the bank. But things are changing. Things are changing. And I think it's important to restate that for those coming into governance. Well, I'm glad that the DG of the World Trade Organization tried to, you know, speak to those issues when she addressed the incoming governor, saying, well, you need to tighten up. You need to find ways to raise revenue. Things are not as rosy as they used to be. So in this situation we're in as a country, there are two things we must not accept. Okay, first, we must not accept the fact that, or rather, we must not accept. The light just messed up with me right now. But we must not accept sensationalism, okay? Sensationalism in terms of trials, we must not accept that. That is not acceptable now. So the investigations must go on the right way. It must be done the right way. Beyond all of this back and forth on media, we want the right thing to be done. And two is we cannot have someone fleecing our nation, Nigeria, okay? We're not in a good shape. So all of the funds we can get, whether big or small, we need to ensure that we use it effectively. So yes, you can give Nigerians update, but the investigations must be done without sensationalism. We don't want any media trial. We don't want things that you make noise in the media, you get to court and it's thrown out, and then it just dies like that, all right? These things need to be done right. And the investigation must go all the way, okay, from members of the executive to the, and I'm talking at the federal level, to the state executives and the civil service. Imagine you paying to do your passport online. Okay, you've paid, and you know, the immigration officers, you don't have to pay any other thing. And you get there and they charge you, what, 15,000, 20,000. In fact, there's an account number on the wall, just right there. Personal account number that you pay money into, and you call the Servicom, you call the agency and tell you, well, you want your passport, right? Okay, go ahead and do it. That should also be investigated. That must also stop.
And the contractors, Sufkadi, don't forget to mention the contractors. You know, the other day on the program, we're talking about how we have thousands of abandoned projects spread across the country. You know, so some, public officials at the civil service level approved these contractors to go ahead and do the job, and they failed to deliver on the job. For a lot of them, money has been paid for them to do the job. Perhaps, these contractors are in cahoots with the civil service official for a particular sharing formula. If that is the case, that needs to be investigated.
Absolutely.
Such that public funds can be better managed. Look at our primary healthcare centers. Look at our, other public institutions that are moribund. They're not functioning at this time. 70 billion naira, if it has been misappropriated, is a lot of money. And in fact, the investigation must be thorough. And if there's a need for, culpability, it should be done all the way. Abuja.
Well, yeah. It will be very interesting to see what happens at the end of the day, because several people also, they latched onto what Matawale was saying. Publish what you have, if you have it. All right. Of course, that will not be the last of what you heard about that one. But let's jump right in and take a few of these dailies. Just looking at the clock now. Take a look at Vanguard for a start. Patients groan as doctors strike enters day 2. Here we are talking about billions of naira being frittered away in different agencies, different areas, allegations against the corruption agencies themselves, and who the government is even saying, look, investigate the federal government as well. Who really investigates the federal government? Why is EFCC focused only on state governors? That's what Matawale happens to be the latest installment in that regard, making such narratives. So, maybe we'll be a talking point someday. Look at the riders. Exodus hits government hospitals as private hospitals record brisk businesses. Oh, I wish we really realized. What am I even saying? I think we know what we're doing to ourselves, but we just choose to continue on that path. That's the mind-boggling thing about all of this. Because you can't tell me these people who are in these positions of authority don't know the implications of all of these while it keeps going on. I stand corrected, but not sure I can buy it. But 10th NAS inauguration, opposition parties worry over bid to alter rules. There are several perspectives, several scenarios, several items you could read here. So, look at this. Bauer must quit now. CSOs tell FG. There you go. They started. That's Vanguard. Make of that what you will.
Well, take a look at what Daily Trust has for you. They're focusing on the economy somewhat, and look at that. Ahead inauguration, Naira falls to 760 Naira to the dollar. That is the lead story there. National Assembly leadership contenders woo lawmakers with foreign currency. Demand went up this week. That's according to BDC operators. Yes, demand for the scarce commodity or resource went up this week. And you might ask why. Are importers all of a sudden importing a lot more? I don't know. Security agents dodging bandits, mocking victims. That's according to the Sultan.
Wow.
So that's certainly not something to take lightly. Dodging bandits, mocking victims. Oh, wow. That's a very sad one. You find it somewhere inside the paper. You also see a number of other stories. Port Harcourt refinery ready before year end. Warri, Kaduna 2024. Okay. Wait. We also understand that Dangote refinery will be commissioned next week. We're waiting. Well, let's leave it there for Daily Trust newspapers.
And flip to this Nigeria. This Nigeria chooses to follow up with, something entirely different, but still having to do with the May 29 inauguration. Take a look at the headline. Nothing will stop inauguration of president-elect, as ascribed to the federal government, as PEPC adjourns Atiku's petition against Tinubu till today. So we'll be hearing again from the courts today, we hope without much drama. Take a look at this one. APC cautions state chapters to stay on disciplinary matters. Party politics for you. And right under that, you find this one. Anambra, 2 arrested, 2 missing in U.S. Embassy staff attack, says police. Well, that's cheery to note, and we hope that the investigation goes all the way. And lastly, at the bottom strip, direct entry UTME candidates to sit for same exam henceforth. JAM remits 2 billion naira to federal government as 2023 interim surplus. You'll find details on page 20. Let's leave it there for this Nigeria.
I'll turn our attention to Nigerian Tribune now with this lead. Of course, you've heard that at least moments ago. EFCC boss and for governor exchange words over alleged 70 billion naira fraud. That's the Nigerian Tribune. Expose me if you have any proof of fraud, Bauer. Bauer must quit now. Face probe panel over 150 CSOs tell FG. 150 CSOs? How many CSOs do we have in Nigeria? Anyway, more details.
We haven't done a head count.
Page 3.
We can.
150 CSOs. I mean, I'd seen that story earlier in the year. I think it was 130 or just above 100 then, but 150. But hey, more details on the inside pages. And you see this one?
The work of, pressure groups are lucrative. Is lucrative.
I mean, that's a conversation we need to have maybe some time later. But take a look at this other one. Speakership race, G7 aspirants vow to fight on. So what is G7? I mean, we know the usual G8 and the G20, but this is G7 in the context of the 10th Assembly. So page 2 should give you the details you need. And a couple of more stories. It's actually a lot on the front page. But let's leave it there for the Nigerian Tribune.
Oh, these G's. Someday you hear G unit, you never can tell at this rate. Take a look at The Guardian next. Minister has called self 100%. Okay, let me finish up. Don't worry, just hang on. The minister has called self 100% on failed carrier, MRO, airport concessions. If you see this headline, you
have to love The Guardian. You have to love it.
100%. Oh, dear. But just go to pages 4 and 5 and put that in context and see.
I mean, 100% on failed. Is it Air Nigeria?
Well,
did it vanish into thin air or never came out of air?
But the last conference, the last FEC, the minister, I think I heard right. He did say that he was going to commence this before the handover. May 29.
Happy? We're in May already. It's not very far again. I think I was the one doing the countdown to Children's Day. So who knows? But let's have the faith of little children.
Okay. Yeah? But, when the minister said that, being the professional in that field, he may mean something different. But what people understand this to mean is that the flight will take off. They will be operational. So I'm hoping tomorrow, who knows if they will say, well, look, in this field, there are different areas in this field. If we say it's going to be operational, go look at what's on ground. Offices of, let me not jump the gun or get ahead of myself. I'll just wait. Maybe not with bated breath, but I don't know. It's a big story on the front page of The Guardian here, so And by the way, the theme here is after 8 years and 15.9 billion naira on Air Nigeria.
15.9 billion.
You heard right. So you could understand
and
why.
And there is a National Assembly committee, or there are National Assembly committees that oversight that particular sector. Wow. 15.9 billion naira. Well, please do not let go of a copy of The Guardian this morning. Please do check out that story, please.
Oh, boy. Well, speaking about that, because this may cause hope to be deferred, but Nigeria hopeful of $32.5 billion oil project as NNPC eyes 1.8 million barrels per day in July. Okay. So, this is what you find. This is the front page of The Guardian, and there's just quite a number of things here. Cash crunch cuts telecoms growth as operators lose 1.02 million subscribers. So what do you expect? I mean, people want service, they want quality. So if they're paying for something, they don't get it, they move on to something else. So I wonder what NCC has been up to now. I can't remember when last I heard about this this Q, what's that? What do they call it again? They usually give them some parameters, which they made a lot of noise about those days. Maybe we should call them the good old days in terms of the quality of service. They keep checking them, trying to put them in checks, but I don't know. We don't get to see them hugging the headlines again, all of those checks. And service has dwindled in several areas. The drop calls seem to be the norm in some areas with some networks now, and it just goes on. But that is The Guardian this morning.
Well, I think Kaide already did the Nigerian Tribune, but let's take a look at what Leadership Friday has for you this morning. No litigation can stop Tinubu's inauguration, federal government declares. That's a lead story there. CSOs finger foreign bodies in plots to stop president-elect. Tinubu Shetima to get GCFR, GCON honors. So that story is on the front page of the paper. Court extends Seun Kuti's stay in police custody by 4 days. So certainly the media keeping tabs on that particular story for you. But there have also been other incidences that have come up since that time. It was very interesting to get the perspective of the police. While, of course, no one will ever condone any citizen, slapping a police officer, certainly, will I say, certainly intolerable. It's something we should not have in our society. We should also not have police brutalizing citizens. Yeah. And many more images have since emerged since that arrest of citizens being brutalized by members of the Nigeria Police Force. So let us hope that there will be something said about those videos that have also made the round. Take a look at this one. Also from Daily Leadership Friday. LP crisis, Abure Apapa return to trenches. That's also there. Matawale will be arrested for 70 billion naira fraud, says EFCC. Now, some people will say that the fact that this investigation now has not been discreet, he has immunity till the 29th of May.
Is he even in the country? Oh, what? No, sorry,
exactly. So what exactly, is he going to be coming back for if he's not in the country? Won't he find a way to sneak out? And he doesn't have to do it through legal airports, I don't know, really. Let us see how this is going to play out. Could extend, beg your pardon. Despite meeting with Tinubu, Kano APC won't accept Kwankwanso. So it looks like the political calculations in the Kano APC are quite different. That meeting with Kwankwanso in France was widely publicized. What will it be like? What will be the consequences on the ground in Kano, where Kwankwanso has will I say, is reigning supreme. It's reigning supreme. You cannot just, I don't think APC saw those votes coming in. I mean, flood them fair and square.
But don't forget, 2019, to the last elections, they ran them close. At the governorship elections, it was really close, and they had to go for a second time.
Yes.
Before.
But this, I mean, I'm talking about the presidential elections in Kano.
Some say, well, might have seen them coming because I haven't seen that kind of movement.
Yes.
It was only a matter of time.
Yeah.
That they were going to wait, and then probably they might have had the thing for the governor too, saying, well, we're going to get a pound of flesh on this one. So this time around, they just...
So how is it going to work out? I mean, if there is any truce or any merger or any... How is it... Who's going to... Certainly, it appears that, you know, the APC will have to make room, and a lot of room, for to accommodate, you know, the following that he has
because
in Kano.
The president-elect has been speaking about government of national unity. So probably he's got some ideas in terms of how this wants to work. But we're also quick to be reminded about last time somebody mentioned that kind of scenario. Former President Obasanjo and 7 people who joined in that government of national unity ended up in the party.
Of course, they became unified to the PDP.
So,
well, that's those are some of the stories on the front page of Leadership Friday. Over and out to you in Lagos.
Okay, there's time for just one more paper as we look at Daily Independent, and Daily Independent leads with this one. I'm back as national chairman. No more faction in Labour Party. That's ascribed to the embattled national chairman. I don't know if I should call him factional now and not incur the wrath of Labour Party members, the obedience to be precise. But, you know, this is Mr. Julius Aburi speaking, and I recall yesterday kind of grilling one of the members of the Presidential Campaign Council on whether or not he has handed over, and what we got was that he handed over administrative duties to a certain... I can't remember the name now, but a female member of the party. Well, he says he's back as national chairman, so we'll take his words for it. Let's go to this one now. Above the nameplate, this is interesting. FG Mall's legal framework for presidential transition programs. And, you know, that can't be said enough, how we need a template for transitions. You know, there's been a lot of back and forth over why the outgoing administration should, you know, be taking decisions on behalf of the incoming administrations. So there must be a workable structure, you know, for both as the handover progresses. Let's leave it there for Daily Independent, and that pretty much sums up our newspaper review segment today. There's so much to look at. We're starting with security, but that'll be after the break. Stay with us.
What is happening in Mango is not just a Mango affair. It is a Plateau affair. And the government is concerned about it. That's why we are here to see for ourselves, to hear for ourselves, and to also see what can be done. And let me assure you that government is very well aware of its responsibilities. that's why this delegation is here. We sympathize with you. We appreciate your problems. And we also appreciate the problems the security personnel are going through. They are doing their best. And government will continue to provide the necessary instruments for them to carry out their responsibilities.
As we speak right now, there are families who are inconsolable, literally trying to just grapple with the fact that their loved ones have been taken away from them forever. Why? Needless attacks. And this is not the first time we've seen that play out, particularly in that area, generally in Plateau State. And just sort of wonder, after all of the conversations we've had, after all of the recommendations, even from the government always saying, well, we're on top of this is what we'll do, this is what we're doing, set up different committees, security outfits, try to set up different strategy from the different security agencies, yet we're still here today. Scores killed, and we understand that. I mean, it's still counting. They're still discovering, or the death toll keeps rising. So let's maybe get a sense one more time of what we're dealing with. Maybe we've missed something at the different levels. And this morning on the show, we're joined by Mr. Oyekachi Adekoya, who's a security consultant, CEO, PR24 Risk Management Consultant, joins us right here in our Lagos studio. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning to the viewers.
I mean, I say good morning advisedly because clearly from images we have seen from Mango, I mean, there's nothing good about what they're going through. But, there's something I saw in the different reportage. By the way, the police has put out a statement on that attack, and they said that they're currently on the trail of the hoodlums. That's the term that was used, hoodlums. And this is not the first time we've seen this. If you look through the reports in recent times, you keep getting one thing. Arrests are rarely made. But before we get to that, what do you make of this recent attack?
Yeah, it's a very sad one. So we all moderate emotions, basically, because then we're talking about human lives. The counts are somewhere around 90, above 90. They've not taken all the taps from all the different communities as the numbers are coming. It's what happens typically when you have a security posture that is rather reactive. And I've said several times that the program we run, because the word security architecture has been overflogged, and I say every time that we don't have an architecture when it comes to security. We had that before the Civil War. And when I say we had that was when Nigeria operated a confederation. And then you had the native police. You had local issues of security being addressed by certain native authorities. And then the state had a bit more say in what happens. But due to the nature of the unitary system of government operated by the military, we've now come full circle to where the population has expanded. We're about 220 million people. Land remains fixed, still now 120,000 square kilometers thereabout. And then the fixed assets that we all have to run to, which is land, is becoming rather limited. In economics, there's something called Castle's law of variable proportions, which says that if you fix a certain factor of production and you continue to vary other factors, after a certain point, diminishing returns will set in, and then you have to then vary the fixed factor for your productivity to continue to go. But regrettably, we cannot vary that fixed factor, which is land. And at the base of these arguments of insecurity, you are dealing with the issues that threaten quality of life and issues that degrade access to resource and resources. It's sad that we come to address symptoms every time. So this is just another symptomatic event that reveals a deep-seated problem within the Nigerian construct. Again, another thing is that we're approaching now the farming season. I tried to look at the data. Around this time last year, around April 10th,
right,
it happened in another local government. I think it was Kanam or so, where you had about this same number of people killed. The issues in Bassa have kind of moderated out for some time. This year, it's Mongo, and it's not the first incident in Mongo. This year, there's been several kidnaps of different district heads. I think 4 at the last count, thereabouts. There's been a number of killings. The real local governments to highlight are Riom, Wase, Kanam. And of course Mango, and of course Bassa. So it's Nigeria happening to the people of Plateau. That's the way I say it.
2 points I need to follow up on. First,
yes.
I mean, some of these attacks have lasted years, even before we had this sensitization of, the resources are dwindling. So we've had these attacks for some say even decades, really, before we had social media, such that there's a lot of publicity around it. So this has lasted for too long. Some would say, even before, as I said, some of those resources started dwindling. So is that still what is responsible for it, especially when you now look back to before we had the challenges or resources are dwindling?
Extensive research has gone into the crisis in the Plateau. And a lot of work has been done between the period of 2001 and 2015 and trying to understand the reason behind the crisis. Unfortunately, a lot of research work had focused on Jos, which is the capital of Plateau State. But a lot of note has not been made until recently, post-2015, to note that there's been incursions into the local government areas. A number of Peace and Reconciliation Committee, commissions of inquiry.
In fact, the state government has this makeup that essentially is meant to be like a peace commission to seek peace.
Still standing in place. Yeah. They've tried to make a lot of progress. But what I see in this is just a problem of education. Because when people are poorly educated or scarcely educated, at the very mundane level of their reasoning, then you reduce conversations to either religion or ethnicity, and people can't see beyond what they are told or what they're informed or how they're instigated. There's also a number of psyops or social engineering. This argument between indigenes and settlers, they're very germane arguments to have. But there are people who are profiting from this crisis, the way we see it, and that's why the crisis is not letting up. Because if you do a peace committee in Bassa, it will show up somewhere in Rio, or then it goes to Shendam, or it goes to Kanam. I was in Jos when the crisis happened. I witnessed the 2001 crisis firsthand. I was living in the Triamo Div at the time. I lived in Feringada. I lived sometimes in Angwarimi. So I know the place. And the funny thing about the crisis in Jos is you can have peace for some time and you assume it's Uhuru. Then there's a flare-up again. So the issues are not just security. You can't say it's the military. You can't say it's the police. You can't say it's just purely the indigene settlers crisis. There's more to the crisis. And clearly, if the state governments could have addressed this since 2001, successive state governments have always mounted peace, but the peace has not been achieved. So it will look as though that there are external forces triggering the crisis every time you have too much peace and quiet. Something happens to instigate the matter again. So it goes beyond how many military, how many police.
So I don't get this part, because essentially this is crime. Yes, we can talk about the backstory, but crime has been committed. Lives have been taken. Is it hard for security agencies to deal with this as a crime that it is? Because I have said that time and again, one denominator is that arrests are rarely made. And we've seen our security agencies, when they want to work, they will do the work. So why isn't this treated as a crime? It is arrest, prosecute, jail if there is need to, or whatever punishment is meted out.
You're asking a bit of a tricky question, because if you look at the MO of the operators, the modus operandi of the operators, their signature style shows you that clearly they operate like armed bandits. You can't arrest who you don't see and who you don't know.
Well, you can chase them as police.
Yes, you can chase them.
Catch up with them.
Of course, we're chasing them in Katsina. We're chasing them in Zamfara. We're chasing them in Kebbi. We're chasing them in Sokoto. We're chasing them in Kaduna. Kaduna's south is still flaring up. We're chasing them in Niger. We're chasing them in Nasarawa. There's ISWAP reported in North Central now. In Kwara, we're also chasing them. We're chasing Boko Haram in the Northeast. We're chasing ESN. We've come now to Jos. 2-3 days ago, it was the U.S. envoy in Anambra and Ogbaru community. We're chasing them there also. We're chasing them in Ogun. Ogun North is also awash with some issues. We're chasing them in Oyo. The military has operations in over 31 states. In any case, we're chasing them everywhere. But when it happens in the Plateau, we quickly want to give it a religious connotation. But people are also dying in Katsina. APC lost in Katsina. I'm even surprised they got the number they got in Katsina, because in Katsina, people die almost every day. And because of the religious teaching.
That's for the presidential election.
Yes, for the presidential elections. People tend to say it's Kadaraos, the will of God, and then some parts of the core Muslim North take these things on their chin. The parts of the Christian North can't relate with, because their religion teaches them differently. So that's why when it happens in the Christian part of the North, there's this much flare-up. But people are dying every day in the Northeast. So it's not peculiar to the Plateau or Benue or the North Central. Nigerians, Muslim Christians, are faced with this challenge. And to your question, why are we not affecting the arrest? Some gentleman in Abuja is the IGP of police who has a constitutional responsibility to respond to that question. But Nigeria has over 774 local governments, and one man has to oversee internal security down to local communities and villages in all the nooks and crannies of Nigeria. One man.
He doesn't have to give the orders for arrest.
No. You see, I run a business. I'm CEO of my business. I can tell you it's not easy running a business in Nigeria. Ask any person running a business, let alone operating in several local governments sitting in Abuja. It's not just possible. And that's why every time you invite analysts to speak and we come and talk about the symptoms, that's all we do. And it's become tiring because we're now sounding like a broken record. We come and we will be here again. Sadly, it will happen, and it may happen in any other part of the country. The problem is that the security program we are running is defective. It cannot work. In this 21st century, the issues are far too broad for the unitary system we're operating.
Now, when you say you'll be here again, that is very depressing, just to think about the possibility of this happening again on this scale. But I'm glad that you say that you have lived in Jos, before at one time, and that means that you have some form of familiarity with the terrain and, an experience, with this nature of unrest. So that brings me to the point about how the locals would always say that, look, the security operatives are complicit. And when you look at, what has happened in Fungzai community in Mangu local government area, they say that the report is that the attack went on at midnight to the extent that 29 people were killed. And it could be more than that because they began the attack in another village before they got to Fungzai. So why do you think that this attack went on unchecked, and especially because this same attack of this nature had happened in this particular local government just last month in April?
Yeah, so if you ask the question, it's now to try and indict either the military or the police to say why they're not doing their job. Rightly so. Yeah, they should do their job. But if we have resourced them and tooled them, then we can charge them for not doing their job. Because, of course, we have the Operation Safe Haven operating in the Plateau. If you listen to all the local government chairmen, all the district heads and everything, what everybody is crying about is the lack of adequate security. But almost every local government in Nigeria today is singing the same song. And the resource of the forces are not infinite. So why don't we sit down and do a deep dive into the sources of this conflict rather than trying to react to it? Because once you are reacting, you're already on the back foot.
But aren't we as alarmed as we should be at the resources as inadequate as they are unable to check a killing that went on for hours in the night?
No, sadly, I don't think we are alarmed enough in Nigeria. We're too pacifist as a country. And this is a sad truth. We just take it as the will of God. But this is ridiculous, to put it very moderately. We don't pay enough attention to what happens in security. We don't have a say in who becomes IG. We don't have a say in who becomes defense minister or minister of police. We have no say because everything happens in Abuja. Do you understand how far we are from it? I'm sitting now in Ogun State, in your studio. I have no say in what happens in Shagam, my local government. No say whatsoever, because the IGP runs the deployment. My state governor is the chief security officer on paper. He can't do squat. The local government, where these incidents of crime, as Coyote calls it, occur, day in, day out, can't do nothing about security in their domain. We have left everything to the hands of the federal government, which is an aberration. You see, because the states are the landowners. And then in our will to come together as a people, we have formed the Federal Republic of Nigeria with subnationals forming the federating units. But those federating units cannot deal with the issue of security. And every sensible approach to security is local. When you take away the local components from any security initiative, you can't do anything. But then they say that you've had community issues, once you can't enforce law, you have nothing. It's like the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Once it's blocked and people are running on the opposite side of traffic, there's so little law enforcement can do because law enforcement becomes overwhelmed at that time. So our law enforcement is overwhelmed. I understand the claims of complacency. Yes, I lived in Plateau. Yes, I know the place, but I don't want to see it from the perspective of someone who's been there. I have business to look at the entirety of Nigeria. And we see data, we see the crime statistics. And I'm saying that the problem is just not Plateau today, Anambra yesterday, God knows where tomorrow, or what next tomorrow. The problem is that the security program we are running is not working for Nigerians. And that's why we will keep having these conversations until we take policing local to the states. Do state policing. It's an aberration for the military to respond first in matters of internal security. World over, the military is not best suited for counter-terrorism. Okay, they can do counterintelligence, insurgency operations, but the police must be the lead agency. We have a counter-terrorism unit of the Nigerian police force. They don't have enough personnel. They take the back seat. Go to the Lagos command of the counter-terrorism unit of the police command. Go there. It's not what it should be. So once you don't have the police should be the first on the scene. Then the military should respond with additional force, and then we can escalate further. Not domesticating the military, because the military goes in to search, to kill, to destroy. It's one objective. The police will go in with a civil outlook to investigate, to understand the dynamics of crime, and then to begin to go into the communities and pick up the actors.
Mr. Adekoya, pardon me. I'm reading the statement from the police now, and just to tie into the point you were making and get maybe some more clarity. So you've talked about how the security agencies are not as well equipped as they ought to be. You also made the point about governors and their role in security, of which a lot of people would say, well, we've seen governors show that power or at least flex that muscle when it comes to politics, elections, how they get, the security agencies to do different things. And there are reports out there of governors giving orders to police, and, the orders are carried out without deferring to the orders from above. So I think it's just picking and choosing when it's convenient. That's what a lot of people say.
Okay.
But the point I was going to also make is that in that statement, the police said, due to our heavy firepower, the hoodlums abandoned 4 motorcycles, presently in the custody of the police, 1 Sharon vehicle, and some items used for their nefarious activities. So the police says they have heavy firepower. So, to that extent, the police is saying, well, we are good, or at least for this particular attack, we had heavy firepower. That's one. 2 is that a lot of people will then ask, they abandoned their motorcycles, so most of them will have been running on foot. And you said that we are chasing them. Isn't it enough to have caught up with them? I'm just looking at that statement and asking questions that, people would ask rationally.
Yeah, Kayode, so I would forget the part of the political part. So because of our laws, there's a limit to what law enforcement can do when it comes to politics. If the institution of state, which is INEC, does not invite law enforcement in, there's little you can do. And then within the dynamics of politics, people can play politics and then influence operation. But it's not the same thing with security. Because of the chain of command, there's always unity of command. Command rests with the IG.
So you're saying, pardon me, that if a crime is committed,
yes,
hypothetically speaking,
yes,
now, and a policeman is meant to effect arrest, they don't have to defer to the DPO, do they? They don't.
No, they would effect the arrest, but it's now when you get to the DPO that you can see some funny DPOs. Because also, when you take a case to the local division, the divisional police officer, who you call the DPO, also has the first responsibility to diffuse the situation, de-escalate, apply discretion. So it's not every time you go to the DPO that the DPO must say, oh, charge the court immediately. He will first, because he's within the community, he must try the community resolution approach first. And where the parties fail and insist, then he's duty-bound, of course, to charge the matter to court. So it's not everything first. That's not the way they operate. And that's not, that's part of the powers given to them to deconflict first. So unity of command remains unity of command. I understand the dynamics of politics, but you see, that's not on this scale of statewide security, because when you're dealing with the state, you're looking at the territorial integrity of the state. Nigeria is like a polygamous family. A man who has over 250 wives. Use the wives to connote the different ethnic nationalities that we have. If you are from a polygamous family, as I am, say your father, I know people whose father has 40 wives. You know how toxic the family is. You know how it is difficult to agree on any one issue, because everybody will see issues from their own narrow prism. When you talk about national security, I ask the question every time, whose national security are you talking about? Is it the Yoruba nation, or the Ijaw nation, the Hausa nation, the Fulani nation, the Bra nation, the Kanuri nation? Because these are all nationalities. So national security will mean different things to different nationalities.
Well, Mr. Adekoya,
yes,
if you even look at that statement, it's clear that the police's response was reactionary, after the deed had majorly been done. And if there was an army operations unit there, as you said, isn't it more worrying that, this was not checked at all and the perpetrators are still on the run?
I've said that, and I'll continue to say that until we change what we are currently doing, the actions of the police will forever be reactionary. They are already on the back foot. The initiative is not with them. Whatever the military will do is to respond. You can't declare martial law in Plateau State because there's an issue in Mango today. And then another one pops up in Rio tomorrow. Another one pops up in Bassa. All the military can do is to deploy limited amounts of assets. Even the military units confronting Boko Haram in the northeast, you have seen reports of them complain of equipment. I'll give you an example. You have a battalion there's a certain number of A vehicles a battalion should have. There's a certain number of B vehicles a battalion should have. In some operations, sometimes the only moving vehicles are those of the CO, the commanding officer.
But that point you make about equipping them.
I'm making a point to say that if you have men and you cannot move them to the site of the action, you have nothing.
But remember,
if you have men also, just to make the point that, and you don't have ambush-protected, mine-resistant MRAPs or armored personnel carriers to move your person safely to the site of the action, then your people cannot move. Because we talk about the security people as though they don't have blood running through their veins. How many of our policemen have bulletproof vests that you see on the roads? How many of them are protected to go into the action? Because you don't train your people to go and die.
Mr. Adekoya, I appreciate the point you're making about equipment, and I think everybody's aware of that. I mean, if you've had to call the police at some point and you get to maybe the station, you see the state and you just wonder, how will these people protect us? But you mentioned the point about the ethnic reality of Nigeria.
Yes.
So you equip the police, you equip the military with all of the funding you can get, but it still doesn't remove that reality you pointed out. And it seemed to me as though you were saying, in carrying on their work as security operatives, they have to consider the peculiarities of those ethnic, divisions and all of that. You said security means different things.
Yeah.
So while we're equipping, what solution do we have for handling those different, by the way, crime should be crime, but I understand the point you're making. So how do we resolve that one?
The ability to take initiative is not within the command structure of a unitary police system. Because local initiative is what is missing from all the things you are saying. Local. See, everything about security is just commonsensical. When you say security expert, who is a security expert? You could be a security expert. Put 3, 2, 4 people in the room who are functional experts. When I say functional, these are maybe combatants, people in operations. People have experience in operation. Not every security person is a person who is adept in operations. Put the operations people who are locals, who have a stake and have some skin in the game, and say, what are the root causes of these issues? They will give you the symptomatic problems they see from a security perspective, but every seasoned security person will tell you that the bulk of the issues are political, the bulk of the issues are societal, and the bulk of the issues come from how, or what you call the envelope over the states created by the federal government, particularly when you look at what you have on the exclusive list, what you have on the concurrent list, and how that structurally the states are incapacitated because the Nigerian security program operates on the principles of regime protection first. After regime protection first, then whatever comes next. So the people are not the focus of our national security program. Which is why when in 2019, the federal government through the NSA set out what is called the National Security Strategy Document, and then said, for the first time in a long time, in forever maybe, human security will now be the trust upon which our security architecture or security program will now run. But intentions are good. Capacity, it can be intellectual, it can be, of course, it can be depth of thinking. It can also be in terms of resource.
Right.
Okay, do we have the right people thinking the right things? Do we have the right structure? And have we resourced the structure? Are we taking local initiative? And all of people, bottom, top. When you take the initiative bottom, you need to be able to implement at the bottom. We take the initiative bottom, we communicate to the top, and then we're looking for the top to implement. You see, that's an aberration.
It's dysfunctional. And I'm glad you make this point, because I sincerely hope that incoming administration is taking note, really, about how to do things differently. But we'll have to thank you so much. You've made very important points, I must say, and I do hope that I don't look forward to seeing you again, honestly. But, I mean, keep our fingers crossed and look to the appropriate agencies to do their job. Onyekachi Adekoya, Security Consultant, CEO, PR24 Risk Management Consultant. Good to see you. I can't say I want to see you again, but have a wonderful time.
I hope not to see you again, too, on this matter.
On this matter. On a cheery note, definitely. So at least that angle of security we've covered, but let's take it to Abuja now. Someone who should know better joins us on the program, guys.
So that's Honorable Dachshund Bagos. He is a member representing Jos South and East Federal Constituency, also a member of the National Intelligence Committee in the House. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chairman.
Commiserations, because yes, it is tough, especially the figures. We don't even know what the real figures are at this point, because it's tough. But certain things are usually basic. The mold. I mean, having reported this kind of matter for years, there are certain signatures you see. And you also expect that security agencies should know all of these things, but unfortunately, we see this happening again. How are you relating with this?
Well, I was welcoming here this morning, and thinking of issues that we're going to discuss, and I said, not again, not again. We've been talking about these issues and this platform for the past 4 or 5 years, so not. And have we ever said that after all this, with all the solutions, advice given to government from different people, can we one day sit down to celebrate that these issues have been resolved? Have we not proffered solutions? So these things keep coming in, coming out, discussing and saying on the same issues, and somebody somewhere is afraid that he doesn't want a particular set of people not to be annoyed or angry, to feel offended.
Is that why you think this keeps happening?
Okay, why is it keep happening? Absolutely, because number one, government have not really taken these matters to heart. Only political statements day in, day out. Over how many people have died in the past few 3 days? Let's be so analytical about it, that villages within one local government were wiped out. Within how many days? And up till now, still counting, and the tension is moving to neighboring communities, neighboring local government. Yesterday night, Berkeley axis couldn't sleep. Everybody was so tense. And with that kind of attacks on daily basis, we just sit down, and after all these attacks have happened and have taken place, security vehicles, you go and lump dead bodies instead of lumping people that were arrested or the dead bodies of the attackers. How many times? What's the average time to take or to kill? Unfortunately, using that word, in 5 people, not less than 10-15 minutes. But no security response. And let me review the security architecture that has been put, especially in Plateau in the past 4 years.
There's Operation Safe Haven.
Operation Safe Haven. Apart from even the Operation Safe Haven, what government has put in place. I always say that, look, the security usually has intelligence in whatsoever has happened. But the political will to execute it, the political will to be able to face these people headlong.
What is this political will?
The political will is that you know what the issues are, but you try to manage the situation. Let me review maybe the statement of the outgoing governor. At a point in time, he said that, well, we have given these people commissioner, we have given these people, now there is peace on the plateau. We've been able to establish a forgiveness garden. We'll be able to say that we have peace-building agency. So for the past 4 years, there is forgiveness garden. Who is forgiving who? There is, you have given them commissioner so that they will not attack. So, which means you know who is doing this, and you brought a cake to the table to give these people and to achieve peace, political peace. And I've said it here, not once or twice, that political peace will never last.
Does this suggest that security agencies there, like the police, are helpless?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, when they do their work, I've had security agencies complain not once, not twice. Look, we know these people will go and arrest them. When we bring them, it's either they are being taken to Abuja, or it's either they are saying that they are being given bail, or so on. So who is now who is now facing death sentence in the courts today? Where is the justice system? So if the justice system have failed, these things will continue. That's practically part of political peace.
What exactly is this about? I mean, several times we've been told it's about land. Yeah, scarcity of land. Anytime I'm driving into Jos or driving into Plateau State, you just see land. Wide expanse of arable land. I mean, generations will come and go. The land will still be there. I know the population is growing, and you have to ask, how can something that has been so freely given, be such a hot point of contention?
Today, if I want to read it politically, like the politicians read it, or like how the outgoing administration have been reading it politically, I will say that why is it that it is now that is the local government of the incoming governor that is being attacked heavily? Oh, if you want to read it politically, you will say, well, because he got that overwhelming support against the new, that's why now he is being faced. But you don't have proof to do that. You will see that when issues have not been really faced headlong, these are issues that will continue. Just like you have your own child at home. Mommy, I need chocolate. Mommy, I need this. You don't really look at the side effects of all those things. You just give, just so that he will not be crying all the time. And when this child grow up to an adult, you will see the difference, and you start saying that your child is wayward. This is the issue we're facing now. And the Operation Rainbow that we have had in the state have been neglected. The reason Operation Rainbow was supposed to be like our own state police, to be able to draw strength from the community, to be able to draw intelligence from the various community, not to wait for attack to happen and the STF will start running into... I've said that, look, STF has tried its best on the Plateau. DSS have tried its best on the Plateau. But who is giving who command to go and counter those attacks? Who? At what point do we have government coming in to say, look, whosoever is to give those directives on, shoot aside on those people that are perpetrators? Who are those people? Can't you trace them? And I always say that in the 21st, getting to the 22nd century, that we still cannot ascertain technology. Today in the West, that we are all looking at, remove technology from the West, they will be blind security-wise.
Yeah. Again, I go back to root causes. We've been told, okay, this sometimes is because of scarcity of land. Usually, we know that during the dry season, where water becomes a scarce commodity, herders are taking their cattle looking for water, and they might sometimes, encroach on people's land. But this is rainy season. Well, right now in the middle of the rainy season, there's plenty of forage for cattle everywhere. I mean, farmers are currently farming their own land as well. So you have to ask, what exactly could have caused this latest flare-up? I do not want to think, you've talked about politics, I do not want to think that people do not regard lives anymore in such a way that if we choose to play politics, it will now be with the lives of over 85 human beings.
Yeah. And that's the number you can even count. That's the number you can even count. And so when government, even from what you have said, when government will try to give it a certain coronation, the coronation that is a clash. If it is a clash, you have had 85 people from the villagers, from the people that are staying, where is the dead bodies of the others if it is a clash? Because we must all struggle and box. Where is the dead body of the other side? That if you're talking, it's a clash, herders, farmers clash, this and that. It is pure trying to see how to wipe most communities as a result of whatsoever they want. We don't know. As of today, in axis of Riom and other, the same communities, the same method that was used over 12 years ago to wipe some of these communities in Riom axis. Up till today, these communities have not been reclaimed. And some people are staying in that community unidentified, unreclaimed, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, Riom is a local government you encounter just before you get to your south.
Yeah, exactly. So those are, just in my own local government, people were sitting down about 2-3 weeks ago, and they were raided with bullets from the mining site. So what will you now try to put the coronation of these issues? What assertion will you bring to play that this is truly what? There is no.
Would you say this is attacks and counter-attacks? So I'm also looking at this statement from the chairman of Miyetti Allah from Mongo local government area. His name is Yaya Bello. He said it is the people of Boai who attacked their own area. He said over 50 of his people were killed and houses burnt while their cattle were rustled. So even if it's not a clash, do you think this is attack, then a revenge attack, and then a counter attack, and then on and on we have that?
Mope, today you can clearly see the people that were killed from within those communities. It's unfortunate that if there is someone, I'm just reading, if it's unfortunate that if someone has made such a statement to ascertain and to give reasons for killing over 85 people, and you know his name, you know his position, and he's on the street. He's supposed to have been called to answer if this is what you are claiming. Today, you can see those dead bodies. Where are the cows that he's claiming? Where are the dead bodies of his own people that he is claiming? Where are they? If today, but you can see one side, but it's unfortunate that I'm still trying to like put thoughts together that somebody can open his mouth to say, to give reasons for the killings.
Are you saying then that there has never been any counter-attack? Is that what you're saying?
Counter-attack from who? Where was the attack and there is counter? If there is counter, which means someone did something and you are now countering. So where is it that there is a counter? Who did where that somebody is now countering? That is just my problem, that the coronation, we have been given this genocide. This ethnic cleansing is wrong.
This we've from certain things that we see out there over time. For instance, if it has to do with, say, I mean, we know the time of NSAS, how government was really quick to trace the funds and rounded off certain people who they thought were culpable in these scenarios. If it were those who were, quote-unquote, talking about secession, we've seen how government responds to some of these kind of things. So government has questions to answer about how they respond to these kind of matters, because we know how government can respond when they want to respond decisively.
Exactly.
So, but the second part of this is looking at the House, the National Assembly, for instance, where you are a member of. They recently passed this Police Act. We've looked at security agencies. Mr. Dekoya spoke about how he thought that the police, the counter-terrorism unit, not as it's supposed to be, perhaps funding is an issue. But having passed the Police Act, we still see these kind of things. It means, it does suggest that it still doesn't solve the problem. So National Assembly going through all of that and coming up with that Police Act, what was intended?
Let me tell you, even when the Police Act was, part of what was included in the Police Act, community policing. Community policing barely and merely in terms of intelligence gathering, and that I can say that, look, the issue of the community policing involving some of our people within policing, and you see them in those black community police uniform, has helped to some certain level, but they don't have the capacity. They don't have the capacity to counter what they see within their own community, and that was why we advocated for state police. State police, they will be able to carry arms. State police, they will be able to know who is within the community. State police, the state governor that is the chief security officer in court will now be on court to be the real, true chief security officer to give command. So those are issues that we have advocated that, look, within the nation, we are with the people. We know these issues. The way I can build a house, put a fence in my house, now I put a dog or those to be able to guard my house as an individual, put CCTV and do everything to make sure that my house is safe. Is the same thing if a state governor is being given the constitutional powers to guard his state. He will be able to procure. He will be able to ensure that his state is truly secured.
Well, as we wind down on this, I mean, this government, we're just a few days away to the swearing in. He's spoken severally about unifying people, unifying the country. He wants to, I think he spoke about government of national unity, suggesting they want to hit the ground running and address a lot of problems as much as they can, as soon as they can as well. What would you like to see them do? How should they approach this when they come in?
Has any politician's statement ever been different from 1999? That we will do this issue on certain security now. The things are here. The first thing that I will be able to believe that this incoming administration will do different is that you set the ball rolling to ensure that the constitution is amended to have state police. That's when I will believe that. But any other political statement that has always been going through campaign periods are the same.
In the meantime, there are no vigilante groups?
Vigilante group, they are even the people that have been guarding our communities. If not, it could have been worse, Maupe. No, it could have been worse.
Couldn't we have expanded it?
What has happened in the southwest now with Amotekun? Have you been hearing any of those issues here? Because everyone knows that if you dare to touch the southwest, you know that Amotekun is there. Since Falaye's daughter was it killed also, and other issues that the Southwest took the issue of insecurity to their own hands. Have you had any issue now in the Southwest? Because they know that the justice system is working there. That the regional police is working. They have all come together in as much as some are complaining that one or two governors are using it for their own police. But have you heard that people in large numbers that we are experiencing now in the North Central has happened? No.
Why can't we do the same thing then in other areas, other regions?
Well, depending on the governors, if they're united. You hear what has happened in the North Central when the governor of, outgoing governor of Benue State was shouting, when my former governor, Jang, was shouting, well, people are saying that they are religious, they are ethnicical, but have you looked at the issues?
But different governors in Plateau have faced the same challenge.
Exactly, because, number one, they don't even have any governor today that will tell you that I can face this in headlong, would not be saying the truth out of it.
So it's beyond the governor?
It's beyond every governor in this country, because no governor out of the 36 states have the real powers to address the issue of insecurity. No governor can give a commissioner of police the go-ahead to execute any and to address any. No governor can command the general of STF within it. No governor can do that.
Can the 10th Assembly take it upon themselves?
Well, that is what we have been agitating, and I will continue the agitation. And that's why I say, when I will see the incoming president to do it different, and I will now have a real that, we are now having, is to be able to start looking at the issue of state police.
What about the humanitarian crisis that comes as a result of this? I mean, there's usually destruction, there's usually people left homeless, people are battered as a result of this sort of attacks. So are there any intervention? At least state governors can do something in that regard. Federal government, they have NEMA.
Intervention, you have them. At the end of the day, all these people, they have turned to IDPs. Is that what government is supposed to be? That at the end of the day, now we will have NEMA moving with trucks of mattresses, truck of footloads, trucks of... is that what peace is supposed to be? And it reflects that that is the only role of government in terms of securing people. You wait after
but at
this.
least
You
they
now
should play that role. At least, and in the meantime, if they could not catch the people, if they couldn't keep them safe, and in the meantime, do they play that role? That's the question I'm asking. Do they play that role?
See, people are even tired. Let me tell you, let government start moving with trucks to those communities that they want to give them relief materials if they will not be chased around, if they will not be chased out. Plateau people are very hardworking people. We can go to our farm and get food for ourselves. We can build our houses, even if it is mud houses. All we need is to ensure that we are peaceful, that our environment is peaceful. We'll be able to do all those things. We are farmers. But we can do all this, not to wait that after we have been killed, you start coming to give us mattress and food that we can farm ourselves. Is that how we now turn to be beggars?
It's a very unfortunate scenario, very, very hard to swallow. And of course, government has a lot of questions to answer about all of these things going on.
And let me tell you, we just came out from elections. Mm-hmm. The kind of securities, if government can just give us 20% of attention in terms of security, the way they gave and the way they got electoral votes into these issues of insecurity, we will achieve something.
Yeah, 5,000 police, maybe 10,000. We see those reports on a regular basis.
Let's just have 20 to 30, 40% of those kind of effort that government put in place in election and to put it in place for our people. You will see results.
Well, thank you for coming on, Honorable Dachon Bagus, and we just, well, hate to say we hope, but no, they have to do much more than hope, because that is why they were elected, to address problems or challenges such as this one. We will be back in just a moment. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We've got Dr. Yunusa Ahmad Abubakar. He joins us this morning on the program. He's a member of the Executive Committee, President, League of Africa, but we also know he's a member House Committee on Loans, AIDS and Debt Management, member Reps Committee on Defense, among several others. Good morning and good to see you.
Justice,
that's why I said several others.
Science and tech, whatever, research institutions,
so many.
ICT, digital, whatever.
Quite a number. But how do you combine? More than 13. How do you combine all these responsibilities?
Well, probably I can say by the grace of God, hard work.
Oh, okay. But just looking back at the 9th Assembly as the House winds down in a couple of days, less than, a couple of days now. Several bills, several laws have been passed, signed by the President as a result of activities of the National Assembly. So perhaps with the benefit of hindsight, if you were to look back, the intention, why those laws came up in the first place, and having been signed into law, many an act now, would you say that, to a large extent, that they have achieved the purpose for which they came up in the first place? For instance, just speaking about security, we spoke about the Police Act, and many still think, look, that still has not addressed the problems. So how would you say that many of those laws, for even this one, has fared in practical reality?
Well, good morning, viewers. And Chamberlain, who is my good sister, National Assembly, 9th National Assembly, they came in with a full of enthusiasm. You remember we launched what we call the 9th Assembly Legislative Agenda. So many things were embedded. We even took the activities of the National Assembly with a acronym Nation Building Joint Project. The Speaker, Right Honorable Femi Biamila, has tried to adopt a different scenario, because this was contained in his first address after elected as the Speaker. He said, we will do things differently, meaning avoid confrontation with the executive, embed dialogue, and even the dialogue is like the Chinese talk. You do it undercover. You resolve your differences in-house. So this kind of activities have helped enough where we have kind of infraction or clash rather, or non-compliance on the arms of the executive, especially at oversighting or when we invited them to find out, to do some investigation. I mean, that one has reduced drastically compared to the 8th Assembly. Coming to what you just said about Bill, well, I don't need to start narrating that we sponsored 1,000, 2,000, but principally among them, there are some important bills that were done. You know, the number of bills that were done there is about 2,200. That will let me be specific, 2,209. And number of bills awaiting second reading are 1,197. And the number of bills refers to committees are 581. Number of bills refer to the committee of the whole. Like this, I can go on. But then the most important issue is that notable bills passed in the 9th House of Assembly is the constitutional alteration. That one is very, very important. And devolution of power to state, autonomy of state judiciary, state houses of assembly, Companies and Allied Matters Act, more educational institutions, like more universities and polytechnics, colleges of education, more, and all these bills were assented. Ease of doing bill or doing business and the starter bill just to create a favorable, business environment. That one too was part there, very notable. There are other many bills, if I keep on, that will touch, the life of the common man. Now, even the Police Act that you rounded up, your last guest before me, it is there. The implementation is where they are having problem. I agree with them. The number of policemen in the service, that is the personnel, is really inadequate, below standard. In fact, it's not even up to 40% of the required standard. So we need to do that. Now, issue of recruitment. That's why in the bill, it is provided that every 6 months, police are to do recruitment while they are checking the bad ones, kicking them out. There are so many people who have discovered that they were armed robbers before and they were police, So, and some of the police are not armed robbers, but are friends and are aiding and abetting.
But part of what Honorable Bago said is that some of these things were merely just scratching the surface, because he says if anyone wanted to demonstrate intent, they need to hit the nail on the head, state police.
Yeah. We started this issue of state police. It came up. Before we do state police, we have to visit our concurrent legislative and exclusive and the inclusive legislative list, whether it is concurrent, whether it is the National Assembly. The issue of police, which involves the state, then you have to visit that section of the Constitution and amend it. Unfortunately, people don't know. In the proposal of this last, and I'm a member of the Constitutional Amendment Committee, I'm the one representing my state, we passed that at the National Assembly level. When we send it to state, we couldn't get 2/3 of the state. I don't know what is happening. And this is an issue that is supposed to go to them. And how many governors are clamoring for that? It seems like that's my own, I take responsibility for that statement, because, we thought most of the state assemblies are in the pocket of the governor. They do the governor's bidding. So any bill, that was my perception and my thinking personally. Let's say I own it. But that is the way I look at it. Because a lot of things they cannot do without their governor. If the governor is, you see that they have approved something, the governor is in agreement. So for them, for us not to reach 24 states, that is the two-thirds of the state, for that constitutional amendment to pass, is something that we have to question ourselves, we, even the citizens. So sometimes when you blame that, you look at the other way. So, and even this devolution of powers to the local government, with both administrative and financial. What happened when we send it? And this is an issue that is it is prerogative of them, but they are not doing it.
What would you say to perhaps any Nigerian who may be of the impression that, as far as they are concerned, they can't really say that the Ninth Assembly has impacted their lives?
Well, they are free to say their opinion. But on the contrary, we felt we have brought out a lot of policies that have touched the life of the common man, even the ease of doing business. The bill that came up, at least with the starter bill, it encourages people to be entrepreneur. See, the Ninth Assembly were faced with so many challenges. 2019, then early, at the end of 2019, the rumor of COVID. By January, February, COVID has become blown. And that's why it is even called COVID-19. So the early 2020, January, February, we were faced with COVID.
Those were the times Nigerians needed the National Assembly a lot at that time. I mean, they saw what was happening globally, how governments responded with several measures to businesses, individuals, but in this country there was no such thing.
To my own understanding, you know, the government have put that task force headed by the SGF, and they have been responding to COVID. They have provided centers, everything, and besides...
But you saw...
No, I'm coming. Besides, I investigated a list of federal government agencies. When I was at FAN with the airport, I saw some of these traders, shop owners, lounge, you understand, that provide in the airport. They were given rebate of about, I think, 50% or even 100%. They were waived that year's, what do you call it? This rental, all distance, just for them to ease. Aircraft operators were given some rebate, and because I investigated them. Now, if it happened in the aviation sector, I believe it is also happening otherwise, because most of these businesses, even caterers that, you know, provide all these snacks and food for aircraft, we investigated them. A lot of rebate were given to them in terms of rent, in terms of service charge and co. So I will just oppose it around. You can see this one too has helped, at least in the business. What?
I'm very interested in your work as the chairman, loans, AIDS and debt management.
Yes.
You do know that in recent times, a lot of Nigerians have been very concerned about the country's debt profile. It's been climbing, it's been growing, and only recently the president wrote again requesting the National Assembly to approve an $800 million loan, which they intend to take from the World Bank. It was ostensibly supposed to, you know, help be the palliative for the removal of subsidy. We've been told that that has now been left to the incoming administration. However, the Ninth Assembly is still being asked to approve this loan. That is one major loan. Then there's also the major, I don't want to say scandal, but I can't find another word to use for it. The Ways and Means that is currently 22.7, or is it 23.7 trillion naira, Ways and Means, which has also given a lot of concern, which the federal government is finding a bit difficult to pay back, and has now asked that it be restructured into bonds. These are the issues that are directly under your purview and that of your counterpart in the national, in the Senate. What has been your own perspective on Nigeria's debt profile And do you think that this debt we have is sustainable?
Quite interesting. And as it baffles you, it baffles us too.
It baffles you?
Yeah.
A member of the committee?
Yeah. That is why that issue of, let me start from bottom to top, the ways and means, we have not yet visited it. We decline it. Though the Senate has passed it, granted the request, but we in the House of Reps, we raised a lot of questions and it has not yet been attended to.
Do you think it will before it winds down?
There are things that I don't want to open the can of worms, but I hope people understand this language of ways and means. In a nutshell, it means printing currency.
Oh.
If people don't know, but I think I need the security covered by channels to continue to open that can of worms.
Please.
Go
ahead. First, the high debt profile, let me deal with it. Nigeria has the capacity to pay back its debt. It is the intention of the APC government under Buhari, the infrastructure they put, if utilized properly, the railways and the rest, if operated under norms, like even Kaduna, Abuja, by operating 4 lanes every day, which have now reduced to only maybe once or twice. But if they are to go on that rate, having 4 tranches, a Kaduna there, within 1 year or 2 years, they would have generated the money to pay back the loan and then become our revenue. That is how, if it has been, efficacy has been applied. Our problem, like I say sometimes here, is lack of patriotism. We, the government, want to do it along the radar. You find a lot of people that, have some administrative stupidity, like I use it, this is my word. That's by the way. If all this Daja quota, which left about 3% to complete, come in with the infrastructure for these other railways, I'm telling you, Chamberlain and Mwape, Nigeria, within 5 to 10 years, if judicious utilization is there, God-minding people, patriotic people are put to man these areas, Nigeria will pay back the loan. Now, considering that capacity and the capability, that is what is making Nigeria loan and improve the infrastructure. It is alarming, but yet when you look at it, you refuse to take the loan. The present situation are not yet matured to have been generated. So it's like you are between the devil and the deep blue sea. So you look at a lesser option. Now, since you have a little threshold, even if you are leading, as long as you did not exceed the threshold, we believe one day a miracle will happen.
You are hoping on miracles. Is that what we're doing?
No, that is my own word.
Okay,
when I say
that's
miracle,
your own word.
When I say miracle, God, if he decide not to punish Nigeria anymore, can give us an eloquent, effective leader, which we saw in Aswaju, the way he transformed Lagos. Probably he will, when just support in Nigeria, though Nigeria is so complex, but the resources are higher. If he can man Lagos to have sustained himself 4 years without a revenue, a grant from the federal government, he generated from 60 or 50-something billion to, you understand, hundreds of billions. I think we feel God has answered our prayer.
Okay, let me take you up on this $800 million.
Yeah, I'm coming to that.
Yes, I want you to address it quickly.
The $800 million, there were so many talks that we did, especially we in the loans committee, and we advised them, first, leave this thing to the incoming government. But since the loan has been granted, what we can collect, if we cannot use it, maybe the purpose and everything, when the incoming government comes, they may have different approach to issues, maybe unlike this government that is there. Thank God, well, I wouldn't say it clearly, but it was on social media that probably they intended not to use any of Buhari's ministers because they have already rated them to have underperformed. So I'm coming.
Yeah.
So the issue is, yes, we have granted that loan. it is approved. So we want Nigeria to take it, but it is not going to be utilized by this outgoing government. Now, if the incoming government come, now we will see also their template, which they are writing it. I cannot divorce it out. So, but even that one that I said, I think that they will not use any of Buhari's ministers. This is from the background, you know, it's like...
So you've advised the National Assembly that they should go ahead and approve it?
Yeah.
That's your verdict?
Yes. But the utilization is on hold.
Wow.
But the utilization should be on hold?
Yes.
So if they utilize it, what happens?
Do you have a control over that?
We have that.
Okay.
So in that vein, we allow it for the 10th Assembly, and I'm very, very happy that the Deputy Speaker and the Speaker are members of the 10th Assembly. Okay. I'm not saying they will continue their speakership. From all indication, FIM is not in the rest. It's only the DS that is on the rest. If paraventure, the present DS, clinch the ticket, though the party has nominated, but they say they have not yet, they are still consulting. Probably they will revisit it. We pray the present DS, because he was the one that stand down the issue of ways and means, because he understands the implication. I'm coming to talk back to it. So all this issue of the 800 loan, we discussed with him. If you remember, for the couple of years back, months, he presided more than the speaker, because the speaker is engaged as well.
Let's see if our colleagues will talk about our ways and means, because we're running out of time.
Yeah, the ways and means, like I say, people should understand it from that perspective, is that we have a shortfall, and by the CBN Act, I think there is a percentage, which is either 5% that is allowed.
But we exceeded it.
Emefiele reached to almost, if not 30% or 39% against the act. We drew this attention. You remember when we drew him about that Section 20, about the mint, how the argument went? I don't want to revisit that. Thank God, at the end of the day, we were vindicated. So the same issue, I told you I'm also a member of the Justice Committee, and we raised this issue with the banking committee, and we drew the attention to the relevant section of this. So these are some of the reasons we advance that this ways I mean that they want us to do about
Dr.
22 or 27 trillion.
Dr. Abubakar, if you can hear me,
what it means,
pardon me.
Let me use the layman language, is to give the central bank way to print more money.
Yeah, Dr. Abubakar, pardon me if you can hear me. The concern most Nigerians would have is how strong the weight of your opposition, you know, to the Ways and Means request is before it was approved. But more importantly, you have confirmed that the National Assembly has approved the 800 million naira World Bank loan. I'd also like to know if you also endorse the approach the federal government would rather adopt in disbursing this loan, i.e. the distribution of 5,000 naira each to a number of households.
Well, thank you very much for the interjection. Regarding the 800, we told you the implementation is a whole. That's the directive we gave the executive. The loan is approved, so it cannot be implemented by this government, and the incoming government is at their own discretion. They have the wherewithal to either change the plan for the 800 million, how they intend to remove the subsidy, and whatever palliative, it is at their own disposal. So the issue of disbursement, 5,000 is on hold. Secondly, we did not approve the Ways and Means, like you said. The Ways and Means has been approved in the Senate, and it does not have our concurrence. We have not, until we approve it, it is null and void. It's turned to nullity. It cannot be implemented. And we have given some conditions, which I've just answered about Ways and Means.
Well, you talked about the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. It sounded like you're saying he's solely responsible for this, but he didn't print that money for himself. He printed it for the Buhari administration, at least part of that money that we have on our hands right now. So why aren't you speaking to the Buhari administration as well?
Well, we have spoken to them, but you see, their explanation in that aspect by the Minister of Finance is that what can they do? And let me add it. Do you know even the devaluation of our naira to reach almost 700, at the point it was even 800, almost 900, even 1,000 people have bought the dollar. So this issue, these are some of the bad or negative effects downward that affected us. It's all this printing, and that's why we raise this issue. And we don't think we can print this 27.2 or 3. I don't think we will allow it. And I believe when the new government, well, the Buhari administration have to take responsibility for any damage, any negative, whatever, under his watch as the Mr. President. Right. So he is to take that responsibility. Now we are saying the incoming government, these are the biggest challenge that he has to do, and I think Asuwaju is prepared to take it up.
Dr. Yunus Ahmed Abubakar, thank you very much indeed for your time here today. But just before we go, we did have Mr. Lamidi Akwakwa here with us the other day, but now he seems to be keeping to his word regarding the Presidential Election Petition Court. He went back to the court to assert his authority, as he did tell us here on the program yesterday. However, he's sitting at the tail end of the courtroom and not the area reserved for Labour Party officials. Also, members of the party and lawyers arrived at the court as early as 7 a.m. for continuation of pre-hearing the petition by presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, against the president-elect Bola Tinubu. We'll bring you more details on those matters as we get them.
Indeed. Yeah. We also have some feedback from our viewers. Oshinowo Kingsley has this. He says, you cannot overcome insecurity where poverty and unemployment flourish. An hungry man is an angry man. Let's not forget the millions of out-of-school children and the homeless. These are the remote causes of insecurity in our country. We can't continue this way.
And we have this one from Abiola Enilolubo. He or she says, the kind of approach being given to insecurity challenges in the country does not suggest the federal government is ready to tackle it head on. The Nigerian state is way overripe for state policing. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Now take a look at this tweet from I Enakina saying the EFCC are too quick to go to the press with alleged financial irregularities and infractions against ordinary folks, political bandits, and career criminals in the public service. By press conferences, you give culprits opportunities to prepare for watertight defense. After the assemblages of the facts, the EFCC should proceed to the court for prosecutions. If there are facts or evidences that are beyond reasonable doubts, they will make the judicial pronouncement easy and not non-daunting, he says. This is in relation to our earlier chat on the EFCC and desire for a state government impasse.
All right, so there you go. That is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. It's going to be a beautiful Friday if it hasn't started like that for you already. So wherever you are, thank you for watching. Have a very good day. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.
We'll say a prayer for those whose communities have been affected by insecurity. Thank you for watching. I'm Malkwelgun Yusuf.
And we hope that they do the needful, all security agents, wherever they are. Thank you for sharing your morning with us. I am Bukola Koka.
Well, I'll see you at 12 noon on Lunchtime Politics. It's going to be a busy day politically. The Presidential Election Petition Court is there. I'm Kayode Okikilu. Goodbye.